Hi, my name is Joe Bartolomeo. I am an Oregon personal injury attorney with offices in Astoria, Oregon and Hillsboro, Oregon. And in this video, I'm going to cover the Oregon auto injury claim through the insurance coverages. In other words, I'm going to walk through the claim in terms of what insurance is available to you, what it covers, what you have to do to access that insurance, when that insurance becomes available. And the reason I do this, because I've been doing this for a while, when people come in to see me, a typical scenario is they come in with their paperwork. Sometimes it's more organized than others, and I get that. And there's names of adjusters on one envelope and a claim number on another envelope and then another adjuster's name. And you really have to do a little bit of detective work to figure out which adjuster is involved with which claim, who they represent in terms of their insured, and what's actually going on with the claim. And my clients will tell me that they're getting lots of phone calls. They can get a phone call from an adjuster to get the car fixed. They can get another phone call from the adjuster who represents the other driver's insurance. They have their own adjuster. It just goes on and on. So what I'm hoping to do in this video is give you some kind of an idea of who all these people are, but more importantly, what insurance coverage is available to you after you've been injured in a collision. Some of this will include references to what goes on in Washington, because I am licensed in Washington. Washington has similar insurance laws and statutes, but there are some key differences. So when I see that, I'll point it out to you if you're looking at this video and you have a Washington claim. So when we do this talk in the office, when somebody comes in, what excuse me, what I tell them is that I'm assuming that you are in a Oregon insured car. I'm assuming, just because it's easier for me to diagram this all out, that you were hit from behind by another driver, and then we pretty much take it from there. The key rule in all of this is I write down, one box represents my client's car, the box behind that is the other driver that ran into them, and I tell my client, your car is also your insurance. The insurance is going to cover or follow around each car. Now we're going to start off with your car, and then we'll go from there, or we're going to start off with the insurance in your car, and then we're going to go from there to the other driver's car, and then we're actually going to make a full circle back to your car, and hopefully you'll have a better understanding of all the insurance coverages involved. So let's get started. I know when a client comes into my office, if they are injured while riding or driving an Oregon insured car, they have what is called personal injury protection, and that is a no-fault coverage, and it's required. You have to have it. The state of Oregon requires the insurance carriers to provide this coverage. And it's actually a menu of benefits inside the coverage. It is no fault. And what that means is you do not have to prove that anybody was at fault. You don't need to prove the other driver was at fault. You could actually be at fault in causing a collision, and if you're injured, your insurance policy will provide this coverage. You have to show that you were in the car, that you were getting into it or getting out of it, and you're covered. If you're a passenger, you're an insured. If you're borrowing somebody's car and it's an Oregon insured car, if you have their permission and you're in the car, you're covered. So the most common coverage or benefit under the personal injury protection, which we call PIP for short, is the medical benefit. You have at least $15,000 in medical insurance for accident-related care, and it has to be necessary accident-related care. For your injuries, you have to incur that care within 2 years after the collision. So that's the medical benefit. You may have more. Somebody may have, you may have be in a car that has $25,000, but at a minimum, there's $15,000 available. The other kind of benefit available is a disability benefit. If you have been off work for 14 consecutive days and you were employed at the time you were in the collision, then if you're able to verify your income and verify your disability, you're entitled to 70% of your average wage as a benefit. And there is a cap, a monthly cap, I believe it's $3,500, but you will get the lesser amount of the cap, the monthly cap, or 70% of your average wage. And that is what we call an aggregate benefit. It's 52 weeks in the aggregate, so it may not all happen at once. You may have a surgery a year after the collision that's related to the collision, and you miss 6 weeks of work, you'll get your disability benefit. There are also child care benefits and household or domestic service benefits. You have to verify that you need the child care help or the household chore help with a doctor's note. You may have to provide the Social Security number of the individual that you're paying for that help. And there has to be, I think I may have said this, there has to be a doctor's note saying you need that. So that's the personal injury protection benefit. This is with your own insurance company or the insurance company that insures the car you are riding in or driving, and you have to fill out an application. They may even take a statement from you. You have to fill out authorizations so they can get your medical records and they can get your wage information if you're making a disability claim. One common question that I get is, what if I was only disabled for 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 days and not 14 days in a row? You can still make your claim against the other insurance company, which is the insurance company for the other driver for your lost income. And I'll talk about that momentarily. So that's your personal injury protection benefit. The idea behind this benefit or coverage is so you're not under any pressure to quickly resolve your claim just so you can get to the doctor. It gives you some breathing room to access health care and disability benefits if you need to. And here's where the law in Washington is different. In Oregon, the carriers are required to offer this coverage. It has to be on your policy. In Washington, they have to offer it, but you don't have to accept it. And I have quite a few clients from Washington who don't have the personal injury protection coverage. And if they do, it looks a lot different than the personal injury protection coverage that I see on Oregon policies. The amount of coverage is less overall, in my experience, if there is any at all. So now, one last thing on Washington though, if there has to be proof that you were offered the coverage and that you signed a waiver saying that you're refusing the offer of coverage, and that can be a significant issue, especially in more serious injury cases. So that's the personal injury protection coverage that's on your policy. Now we're going to move to the other car and talk about the coverage that's available on that policy. So now what we're doing is we're looking at the available coverage that is on the policy for the driver that caused the collision. I often refer to them as the other driver or the at-fault vehicle. And that is liability coverage. Everybody who's insured in the state of Oregon has liability coverage, and that coverage is available to us so that if we make a mistake and we run into somebody and cause them an injury, our liability is covered. And when we buy that insurance, we can choose how much coverage we have. That is called policy limits. That's the amount that the insurance company will pay up to. In Oregon, the required limit of liability is $25,000, so you have to have at least $25,000 on your insurance in Oregon. That hasn't changed in decades, and the cost of medical care has. Many people have higher policy limits than that, but that's the most that you're going to be able to recover from an at-fault driver. And that could be a big issue in your case, depending upon your injuries. The losses that you can recover are your economic damages, and that is anything verifiable like medical bills or lost income. And you can also recover for your non-economic damages. That refers to losses that involve losses to your health, like pain, suffering, loss of mobility, inability to do activities. And the amount that you can claim whatever you want, but the things that govern your claim or how much you may want to claim, it depends largely on how badly you're injured and whether you make a full recovery or not from your injuries. So that's what the liability coverage is for. Now, the insurance adjusters call that BI, or bodily injury coverage. There is also liability coverage for the property damage that the other driver or the at-fault driver caused. That includes rental costs. It includes repair costs. If your car was totaled, which means it's damaged beyond repair or it doesn't make sense to fix it, then that is, you get the fair market value of your car. If you go without your car, that's similar to it's actually the same thing as the rental coverage. If you have a newer car and it can be fixed, you can claim the cost of repair. And if it's a newer car, you may even be able to claim that its fair market value is diminished or less than it was before it was damaged, even though it's been fixed. Those are called diminished value, or DV claims. So that's what's available on the liability coverage for the at-fault driver. Now what we're going to do is go back to your insurance policy, because in some cases there may be additional coverage for your injuries on your own policy. So let's talk about that. A few years ago, I looked at some of the Department of Motor Vehicle statistics data. I was going to say data and statistics at the same time. I looked at some of the data, and I also looked at some of the cases that I handled, and I came up with a theory that there could be up to 25% of the people driving around in Oregon right now are uninsured. And it's a real possibility. Now, it was real rough, back of the envelope kind of analysis, but I think the point is there are too many people driving around without insurance. And so if you are the unfortunate person who not only gets injured because of somebody else being negligent, but gets injured or hurt because from somebody who's negligent, who has no insurance on their car, then what you're looking at is an uninsured motorist claim. And that is a coverage on your own policy. And the limits on your uninsured motorist, the amount of money that is available to make the claim, is going to be the same as the limits that you purchased for your own liability that covers you if you have the unfortunate experience of making a mistake and injuring somebody else. And your insurance company will basically jump into the shoes of the insurance company for the other driver, and they will entertain any claims that you would have against that other driver's insurance company if they even had it. If you can't agree on fair resolution or some mutual amount to resolve the claim, then you can file a lawsuit against your own insurance company, or you can elect to go forward with what's called a binding arbitration. A binding arbitration is an arbitration that cannot be appealed. An arbitration is like I call it a private trial. You select a panel of people, usually either a senior judge and some attorneys. There's 3 on the panel, and they hear the case in a less formal setting than a trial, and they make a decision, and whatever decision they make on your case, that's the end of it. It's binding. So that's the uninsured motorist claim. Now, what we often see is the other driver, the at-fault driver, does have insurance, but because our client was seriously injured, it's not enough. For example, if you are injured and you spend a day and a night in the hospital, your medical bills are probably going to get close to or exceed a minimal policy of $25,000 as far just in medical bills. You're probably going to have a medical bill that is beyond the available coverage of the at-fault driver. you can make a claim with your own company for what's called underinsured motorist benefits. And there is a process that you need to follow, and you need to get permission from your own insurance company to accept the policy limits offer from the other insurance company for the at-fault driver. But if you go through the steps properly, you can make a claim for underinsured motorist benefits. And because of recent changes in the law, you can make a claim if this line here represents the amount of money the other driver had. You can make a claim up to whatever your coverage is in addition to what their coverage was. And we call that stacking. And there still may be some deductions that your insurance company can take for what it paid in medical bills, but that's another video for another day. You have that underinsured motorist claim available to you. I get on my soapbox many times, and I encourage people to really take a look at what their insurance coverage is so that they can get adequate underinsured motorist coverage, because I've seen too many bad situations where people are badly injured, but they don't have an underinsured motorist claim, or at least they don't have the coverage that will adequately compensate them. And then we're in a bad position negotiating with hospitals and doctors on medical bills. So that's uninsured motorists. Now, the last thing I'll talk about is health insurance. Health insurance comes into play if you have used all of the personal injury protection medical coverage that you have. Then your health plan will take over, and you may have Medicare, you may have Oregon Health Plan, you may have a private health plan like Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna. The thing to keep in mind is that you can access that insurance if you can show your health plan that you've used all other available insurance. And you need to keep in mind, and this is important, if you resolve your claim against the other party, you need to reimburse your health plan, especially Medicare and Oregon Health Plan. And if you don't, you could face some pretty serious consequences. So keep that in mind as well. Now, I hope this video is helpful. We have an Oregon personal injury guide that is free and downloadable off of our site. It's an ebook, and it answers a lot of questions. We also have articles on our website, and you can always contact us. Just hit the contact button. You can give us a call, and if it's not something we can help you with, we will point you in the right direction. We will give you the resources that hopefully can help you. So don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching.